What's up, everyone? Welcome to Unplayable. Connor here, joined by Cooper and Joe to give you some easy listening about the world of golf this week. Dave can't join us this week. I think he's too pissed off that Justin Rose has joined that Tomorrow Golf League, that he's buried his head in the sand somewhere. Tiger Woods is back in the game. He's playing Riviera this week, which will be his first start since last year's Open at St. Andrews. The world is going crazy about this. He'll tee it up with Rory and Justin Thomas for the first two rounds, which means everything else will stop and the focus switches to him. Just to start off, though, we got a better sense of a full field elevated event on the PGA Tour last week with a stacked field in a drunken Phoenix crowd last weekend. And then we've obviously got another elevated event coming up this week with the event in Riviera. Temptation is to start with Tiger, but we'll start with Phoenix. Cooper, give us your thoughts on the week. Good, bad, indifferent. What did you reckon?
Unbelievable. As far as the PGA Tour being happy with their first elevated event, I don't think they could have wished for any more. The 600,000 odd people lacing the course, the stacked leaderboard running into the weekend, a real kind of, I don't know if you want to call him a good guy, but definitely and obviously number one in the world again, Scotty Scheffler taking the crown. It really was the perfect kind of kickoff for this elevated event series, or not series, just kind of elevated event. New schedule, I guess, for the PGA Tour. It was, I guess, it did come down to it. I don't know how I felt about Scotty getting relief on 16. Seemed to be a bit. If it was Patrick Reed, I would have been going fucking mad. He seemed to be dropping the ball a bit too far back from where the actual marker was, and then saying I'm not able to get relief, or I'm not getting relief from the walls. So once you drop it twice, obviously you get a place in the third time, and that ended up being a massive advantage in terms of getting up and down, and Ram and Taylor not. So yeah, it was. I don't want to spoil it, but in terms of Scotty Scheffler, when you think of this world number one, he came onto the scene here last year, pretty much springboarded one of the best seasons you can possibly imagine to have, with 4 wins in a major. And yeah, he started the year as he did last year, so hopefully he can kick on and be in the mix for the rest of the year in the majors like he was last year. There was an interesting stat as well. I think of the last 2 years in events where the fields have been the highest in terms of actual seedings, so the best players in the world showing up. Of 13 events, Scotty Scheffler won 5 of them. So he's really turned into a guy who, when there's a really good field, he always comes out on top. Obviously, Ram gave it a good show as well. A few kind of wayward shots found the water that really ruined any chance he had. But Rory was a bit disappointing. But Scheffler, in terms of standing up when the heat's on, he's, for a 26-year-old, it's pretty insane to be thinking about him like that in terms of a clutch player. But yeah, no, amazing event. If every elevated event is as good as this, and I know we'll talk about Riviera now later on, but we're lucky enough to have 96 of the top 100 players in the world playing Riviera as well. So if you've any doubts on where the best place to play golf in the world is, it's these elevated events on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, Joe, I was going to say, looking at how strong the field was coming into it, but then, okay, Nick Taylor, the outlier in that he wasn't, ranked, he was outside top 200 in the world. But apart from that, you had Scheffler winning, you had Ram up there, Justin Thomas, Spieth, Schauffele. I mean, elevated events, the real winners are definitely us, the fan.
Yeah, and obviously the players getting that 20 million purse obviously doesn't hurt them either. But I think definitely for us, it's a brilliant intro to or initiative, I suppose, to the professional golf world. You know, I think definitely the 4 majors and maybe the players felt like the only tournaments where you had all the best guys. But the fact that there's 13 of these things and all the top players can only miss one of them. Like we're in for a great season, and they're spread out nicely over the year as well. So no, I thought it was very good. Yeah, as Cooper said, Scheffler doing it again in a big event. It's insane, his consistency and his ruthlessness when he gets into position as well. He's he doesn't hold back. Like he definitely didn't have his best stuff over the weekend. Like he hit 5 fairways on Saturday and Sunday, but he still managed to go bogey free on Sunday anyway. And he only made 2 bogeys over the 4 rounds, which was insane.
Really?
Yeah. When you look at like, you know, look, he doesn't have his best stuff at the moment. Like Shane was 9 over for the first 2 rounds. Like Scotty made 2 bogeys in 72 holes. So his ability to scramble, and clearly his driving wasn't great, but his iron play, I think he was number 1 in strokes gained approach for the week, which is kind of in keeping. I think the last 5 winners haven't been outside the top 4 in strokes gained approach in that course. So definitely one to look at next year. But yeah, he rode, like he did ride his luck as well, as Cooper said, on 16. When he dropped into that position off his second drop, I think it was sitting very precariously. He didn't stand.
Shy. Yeah, like
yeah, but yeah, the first one was as well, wasn't it? Yeah, so he played his cards well there. But I obviously he was entitled to it. The rules official was right there. So now he did have to go and roll obviously the 15-footer in for par. So it wasn't like he could easily stitch it off the chip. But yeah, that was one thing. And then that par 5, 15th, the hole before, he hit that like cut drive that obviously had left to right spin on it and somehow bounced out of the rough to the left, bounced from the right rough into the kind of like semi-cut, I think it was. But it allowed him to go for that par 5 and 2. Obviously, he hit a great forehand into the green side bunker, but that's a lot easier than having to lay up. So rode his luck, but I think, you know, took advantage of it. Like not all players would. So yeah, and we all know that, you know, given last year, when this guy goes on a run, you know, he doesn't, you know, he could pick off another couple of tournaments in the next few months, and obviously it's coming into the right time of the year to do it. So an interesting stat about Nick Taylor as well. He made, I think, 2.2 million for coming second place, which is, I think, more than any season he's made in cumulatively. Like he's never made more than that in the whole season. I think it's 500k more than he's made in the last 2 seasons combined. I think I saw that one too. So what a week for him. I mean, that's another thing from the elevated events. It obviously means, like, you know, it brings the big names together, but it gives like these kind of guys a chance. Like he made, you know, that money. He jumped from 223rd in the world to 72nd, which, you know, gets him into all sorts of tournaments and gives him all these playing rights. And obviously gives him exposure. Like, you know, there was a lot of eyes in the Phoenix Open last week. So, you know, he's going to have sponsorship opportunities, I'm sure, you know, coming out of it. He's now become a name that, like, a lot of people will see in you know, in a major or something and recognize him. So that's a positive, I think, of the elevated events. We'll get the kind of the lesser known players given an opportunity. So it was it was good. I think Century wasn't really, it was going to be a 30-man field, but the Phoenix Open felt like you know, the proper first introduction, and I think it's great. It's brilliant.
That also shows the depth in the PGA Tour. Like, obviously you have the lads who are up there every week contesting, and it was absolutely, I remember going into the weekend, and it was a properly stacked tournament, like really looking forward to it. But like any one of these guys, I think you got Joe 220 or somewhere like that in the world, Taylor, before the week started. Like, if any one of them turns it on, even if it is just for 1 week, or even if it's the start of maybe a bit of a run, like, you go far down the list as you want. And these lads are literally well able to pull 4 rounds together and win a purse of like insane money and life-changing money for them. So,
but did you see they're thinking of reducing the fields to like 70 man fields and no cuts? Like
that's a massive mistake. Like
that's a live decision.
Exactly the Nick Taylor situation can't happen if that plays out.
Yeah. I think like if Nick Taylor's going up against Charlie Hoffman in the final round, it's a disaster. But if Nick Taylor's going against Ram and Scotty and JT and stuff, then it's a great tournament. Then it's like a major. You always get like a random player appearing in the majors from time to time.
Yeah. Which is cool. Like I like that once it's the field has got, or top of the leaderboard has plenty of other big names that you actually know. It's kind of nice to see the journeyman pop up every now and then and see if he can hang with them. But I mean, 70 man fields, no cuts. It seems like they're chasing live.
If they fucking do that, like I'd like to think Monaghan has a bit more cop on than that, like, because live are already kind of claiming credit for these elevated events, saying we're the kind of catalyst that instigated this.
Which they are.
Yeah, they probably did, even though the PGA Tour will say they didn't. But like, just leave it at that. Like, stop throwing money at the problem and stop trying to feed the top 70 in the world with all the additional prize money. Like, it comes back to the argument that, like, go down to grassroots, or not grassroots, but like go down to Q school, and they're raising the cost of going into Q school while the lads up here are making disgraceful amounts of money. Now let's segregate it even more and just have it for the top 70 in the world. Like, some of the decisions are baffling. So hopefully it was just an idea that was thrown out and it's scrapped fairly quickly.
Did you see that? So the prize money for these elevated events has obviously increased substantially and is way bigger than, say, the prize money of John Deere Classic. But apparently that money is not coming from the sponsors. It's coming from the PGA Tour itself. So you'd be fuming if you were like John Deere and you were sponsored the event. So like Waste Management, for example, get extra exposure, better fields, all that sort of stuff, but they don't have to foot the bill. So I'd say I don't know how they're going to handle that with other sponsors. Like, I mean, they could lose other sponsors for the lower events.
Yeah, I think they're not set though, right? Like, as in the PGA Tour can turn around, because that was the talk. Like, I know we were talking about last week with the AT&T and Pebble. Like, there's talk of them rotating some of the events. Now that's probably a bad idea, because I think, like, the Phoenix Open they've got serious attention over the last couple of years, and I think it would be a mistake to pull that back. I think that's probably cemented its place, but maybe some of the other, maybe like I know the RBC Heritage in Harbour Town is one later in the year. Maybe that'll be subbed with another one next year. But yeah, the sponsors must feel very hard done by if they're given the exact same amount of cash for each event. It'll be interesting to see what way they go with it.
I'd say they don't get an email though saying, "Unlucky lads, you're not an elevated event." I'd say it's a proper discussion, and they are getting some sort of not a spiv off it, but like, just I think if you were to talk to the sponsors in terms of what it costs to sponsor the RBC Heritage and the Waste Management, I'd say they're very different numbers. But yeah, it's hopefully a discussion, and they're not going to ruin any ties they have with sponsors that have names going back decades.
Cooper, what were your thoughts on the whole fan experience, like 16s? I mean, my thoughts are pros and cons, but give me yours.
Yeah, I knew a few people over there looked fairly loose. Yeah, it's just like, obviously, like, unless you have a VIP table or a ticket or something, you are up at 4 a.m., 3 a.m. You're in line for 5 a.m. and the gates open at 6 or 6:30. You're fucking running like a stampede to try and get a seat around or in the stadium. It's then that just leads to these hilarious probably isn't the right word, but like these videos of Americans who are drinking since 6 o'clock in the morning, and that just doesn't work. It's just like, like 3 beers in, and you've lads fucking zombies walking around the course. To be fair to them, I doubt majority of the crowd there. I'd say some of them are golfers, like, but they wouldn't really give a shit about going out to watch the game. So I'd say they didn't venture much further than the confines of the 16th. But yeah, like I like it. I think it's very cool to have that kind of an atmosphere at a golf course. Some of the players I'd say hate it, but like you see the guys like Tom Kim revving the crowd up during a regular play. Ricky with his infamous name around the 16th, rocking in birdies, and then absolutely playing up to the crowd. I think it depends on the player, from the player's perspective, how they kind of deal with that and how they feel about it. But from a fan's point of view, like I'd say more people genuinely know about the waste management now than the players in terms of like main. And like the players is, as we know, the 5th major, or as we'd like to call it. And if you were to talk to the average, maybe someone who plays a few times a year or kind of casually watches the majors, they're definitely more familiar with the waste management than the players. So like that's a good thing, I guess. But yeah, it'll be interesting. It seems to feature open the Netflix series as well. So it'll be I think it's good, but yeah, it's maybe limit Americans to 3 points each or something.
Yeah, agreed.
It was like the Black Friday videos, wasn't it? Like when they open up the stores at 9 a.m. or whatever, the people running, it was gas. Like there's some people running,
drones flying over them. It was like a scene from The Last of Us, fucking herd of zombies.
Yeah.
It was some people I think were filled in the wrong direction, because there was people going left and right and like in all sorts of directions. So don't know what they were told, but yeah, it was yeah, I think it's good from time to time, maybe once a season for something like that, but it definitely got attention. Did you see the ruling Xander got as well on I think it was the Saturday? He was standing in a set of trees. Basically, his ball off the tee found itself in like the base of a tree, completely unplayable shot. And there was a very, like, I say he was clutching at straws a bit, claiming there was an animal scraping on his stance. I mean, he was never going to take a stance because he was never going to take he was always going to be dropping the shot. But the first rules official said, no, you can't take a drop from that. And so he called in a second one. And he said he accepted that maybe he had a case. So I think when it's a tie between 2 rules officials, it goes to the player. It goes to their choice to some sort of rule with that. But anyway, he was able to drop and had a full shot, knocked it on to 15 foot, 2-putt birdie, a par 5. So it was one of those that if they were saying like Patrick Reed had have claimed it would have been, there would have been a bit more attention. I think he was definitely clutching at straws with it. He was definitely stretching it. It wasn't quite like Bryson a couple of years ago, where he was under a few branches and he saw an ant and claimed there was an anthill under his ball. But it wasn't great, to be honest. It wasn't great look for Xander.
I'd say it happens a lot. Like, obviously Reed has a reputation, but these guys are pros that every shot means a hell of a lot of dollars. And I'm sure they are looking at every situation, thinking about how you can use the rules in your favor. And then, yeah, you're coming into a debate there, whether that's ethical.
You just don't want to take the piss, though.
Sorry?
You just don't want to take the piss, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's not the only player that would have tried it, definitely. Like, there definitely would have been others, but I think if you were going down the stretch with him on a Sunday and you saw him do it, it'd be a bit sickening.
Also, when you play that against, say, a Barton Shield match or something, and someone goes for a bit of it went down this rabbit hole, it did it, fuck. It's like, yeah. So yeah, I'd say everyone does it at every level, but obviously in an elevated PGA Tour event, when I think was it Ram, or it could have been Xander actually. their winnings went up by 600 grand with a birdie on the last or something like that. Like the swings are enormous just for 1 or 2 shots. So yeah, it's you still, and that's that point, Joe, on the referees, if it's 50-50, like it comes back to fucking your honor, or like just being honest and keeping true to golf. I was asked actually during the week by one of the lads, just while we were talking about the 16th there in Phoenix, and he said, why doesn't every course have a stadium hole? And I was trying to think, where else would I have that? Like 17 of the players, you obviously couldn't put a stand there. It's already iconic enough. But like in terms of other PGA Tour events, would you have it anywhere? The one off just work there?
It's not quite the same, but at the Open, the 18th walking up the Open, everyone does talk about how iconic that is, and it's basically a mini stadium at the back. Yeah, I don't know. Like I just don't know. I think it's great for a once off, and the Americans milk anything that has a little bit of success to it. Obviously, it's going to look huge on social media. It's going to grab the attention. Like I saw a clip on Instagram the other day of someone showing Joe Rogan, the 16th at Augusta, and he's obviously got this massive platform, and he's looking at it saying, "Oh my God, this is incredible! Why don't they do this for golf all the time?" So the likes of that week, I think, does grab the attention. Is there an argument for it to be done every week? I don't know. Like I think we're all golf nerds and love golf for what it actually is, but is there an argument there that it would attract like the fringe supporters? Like a lot of the people who would have gone to that event last week wouldn't have been there for the golf. They would have just been there for the session, and fair enough. Like I don't know. Yeah, maybe there is a place for it, but maybe it's special because it is that 1 week a year, you know?
Yeah, like I guess if you're the I don't know, the Barbasol as an example, I think that's in Kentucky. If you're running that and like your tournament has essentially been shitted on for being a shit event, do you throw in a stadium hole there to draw in a crowd or to get the kind of feedback that the lads in Phoenix are getting or the lads in TBC are getting?
But
maybe.
yeah.
Sorry, go on, Joe.
Yeah, no, the only thing is that like Ricky was commenting on it after, just saying how, cool of an event it is, but he was also saying that Phoenix have worked a long time on this event. It's kind of built and built. Yeah. You couldn't just plonk a stadium hole like into a tournament like that because if people don't turn up, it looks terrible. You need to be obviously guaranteed that there's gonna be numbers there every single day, from Thursday morning. Because if not, the opposite is obviously doesn't look great. So yeah, I think you need to build it. You need to build it up. Yeah. And it needs to gain traction and notoriety and that kind of thing. So but there's other holes that like would, I think this week, like in Riviera, that 18th hole has that natural amphitheater. It's just everything's sort of, it's like a bowl, the green, and everyone's above it. Like, so golf is best obviously when you have those kind of vantage points, and I suppose when the crowd are on top of players, it makes it more exciting. But,
yeah, I prefer those kind of ones. Like the one that always sticks out to me, I think it's the Danish Open. I can't remember the name of the course.
Oh yeah, Maiden Hinterland or Hinterland, whatever. Yeah,
that is unbelievable in terms of, as you said, Joe, an amphitheater or natural amphitheater. Like those kind of, yeah. I know it is like, sure, think that when Tiger got the hole-in-one in Phoenix, like it was fucking, there was a few stands on the right, all right, but behind the green there was nothing. And every year you just go back and watch it, and another skyscraper seems to have been erected around the.
Like to Joe's point, I think like it has that history of the meme that it's turned into. They're gonna go nuts when he hits this thing, like that iconic shot that Tiger hit, and it's built. That's 25 whatever years in the making. Just quickly before we move away from Phoenix, so Scheffler back to world number 1, so he's taken over from Rory. I was digging into it a little bit because there's obviously been a lot of this debate around world rankings and how this new algorithm works, and people saying that it's not fair. Like, so Rory since the Masters last year, or inclusive of the Masters last year, Rory's had 14 top 10s and 4 wins. Rahm has had 12 top 10s and 5 wins, whereas Scheffler has only had 9 top 10s and 2 wins, including the Masters last year. And yet he is ranked ahead of the two lads. Something not right in that.
Yeah, well, just I guess a lot of the McIlroy and Rahm have probably played more DP World Tour events while Scheffler was playing in the States. That I like you'd think that might be one of the reasons why. But there is like this ongoing debate about who's the best in the world, but how you actually what's the equation to figure out who the best players in the world are. And yeah, it's I have a feeling that now with all the spotlight on them, the OWGR are going to try and fix it, because like straight up, like I think was it I can't remember where it was on the States. It might have been on in Hawaii when the DP World Tour was in Dubai. But like the strength of the fields, like it just the points available from a world ranking side didn't add up between the two events. Like it just made no sense. So there's obviously something there. I think it's heavily skewed towards the PGA Tour. So even if there's a great field on the DP World Tour and a very average, as in only 1 or 2 in the top world 25 on the PGA Tour, it still seems to swing in their favor in terms of ranking points. Yeah, I just think it's in terms of how it's been done, it's just a historical thing, and it's the way it's always been. Like a lot of Rams wins were nothing events, really, like around Christmas time. Well, not nothing events, but like the Spanish Open or in Villamore or wherever. It wasn't.
It's a good point. Yeah, it's not something I actually really thought of, but yeah.
But I think that's the only. It does have to change, but in terms of the argument for Round to be world number 1, a lot of his form comes in weak events. So I think his little hissy fit around Christmas time as well, I don't think that was justified, but there definitely is fundamentally something wrong, and it probably will change now with all that spotlight on it.
Yeah, he does, like the thing Scheffler, like he did finish well in the Brookline US Open that Matt Fitz won, didn't he? Didn't he come tied second in that with Zalatoris?
Yeah.
And in his last, because I saw it, like he hasn't had a finish of I think a win and 7 finish tied 11 or better in a row. So he is playing consistent. But I think the reality is, yeah, those tournaments, as Cooper said, like the Andalusia Masters, and I wonder, just like he won the DP World Tour Championship, but there's only 50 players in that, isn't there? Like by the time they get to the end of season events, so
Hawaii,
yeah.
Is whatever, small field.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a fair point, but it is a fair, like, as in just on paper, it kind of did look like Rory and Rahm were streets ahead of others, and I think like I've seen some data golf stats about how far ahead they are strokes gained as well. There is a gulf between them. So yeah, I think that there's definitely room for improvement. Scotty did say himself before last weekend, because he was second going into the Waste Management, and he said he didn't feel like second in the world. He felt like Rory and Rahm were ahead. So
yeah,
he's such a nice guy, the bastard.
Right. Biggest story. We've gone 25 minutes, and this is the first time we're really bringing it up. Tiger. You saw he's back. So even at 47, I think he is the most significant thing in golf. So he's playing this week. I'll outline a little bit about why this is such a big deal. Since his incredible win at the Masters in 2019, he really hasn't played all that much. So he played very little in 2020, didn't play at all in 2021, made 3 starts last year with 47 at the Masters, withdrew after 3 rounds at the PGA, and then he missed the cut at the Open. So here we are now in February 2023, making his first start since July. Joe, what should our expectations be of him going into this week?
I think, on one side they should be extremely low, given exactly what you've just said. The last time we saw him, he was limping up the 18th fairway of St Andrews in the Open. So, there hasn't been a huge amount of time between that, like, relatively speaking. But if he feels he's ready to play, and I presume you've seen some of the interviews with him this week saying, he's there to win. He doesn't take part. He's not there as just an ambassador for his tournament. As a player, he always has that hunger. And that's more relevant for Tiger, I think, than anyone else who's ever played the game. But it's just hard to see him in any way competing. The other factor is obviously in Riviera, he doesn't have a great record. Again, relatively speaking, obviously for him, he's never won there. I think his best finish was second. I think he came second to Els back in the late 90s. So there's more courses he's won at than not, obviously, on the PGA Tour. And that kind of, like, if he's going to Bay Hill or to the Memorial or something, you'd be like, right, he knows his course very well. Well, he knows Riviera well, but he knows how to play the others. So maybe there's a bit of unfinished business with him as well. Maybe he kind of wants to, try and conquer somewhere he hasn't before. I think the reality is he's probably trying to get 2 tournaments in before the Masters, because you've Riviera this week, and then I think in 3 weeks' time you've Bay Hill and the Arnold Palmer Invitational. So that obviously another elevated event, and that comes about 4 weeks before the Masters. So I imagine he's looking at these 2 to get himself, ready to play at Augusta, because if Tiger's playing one major this year, it's going to be Augusta. So yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on. I think, like, as ever, he'll bring great attention. His group this week is great. He's playing with Rory and JT. I think they're teeing off around 8 o'clock Irish time on Thursday. So that'll be great, obviously, to see. And it's probably no surprise, I'm sure, Tiger was allowed to pick that tee time. Pick his partners. There was something made of the actual time he's playing, because he's playing very late.
So strange.
Late on Thursday, and then pretty much first thing, early on Friday anyway. So not giving himself much recovery time there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him. I saw a couple of swings in the range, and like his swing speed and his movement looks pretty good. I suppose that's the thing. It's always been good. It's the walk in between the shots that are going to be what really causing the question whether he can compete or not. That's really it. I think he's able to swing the club no problem. But it's nice coming off the back of an elevated event last week. Another one with Tiger in the mix. It's a pretty good time to be watching.
Cooper?
Yeah, I was going to say, what a pessimistic view from Joe. Never lived. No, you've nailed it there. Like, he's 1294th in the world. Like, he's self-admitted that he hasn't played 72 holes yet, so he doesn't even know if he can fucking last the 4 rounds. Never won at Riviera. He's come second twice. But I think Joe, you nailed it there. It's like a bit of unfinished business. That's the kind of way I'm looking at it. No, it's just great to see him back. And as you said as well, like I was at the 7th at Adair Manor for the JP Pro-Am. The speed he has in the swing, like, there's no problem with a swing whatsoever. Like, it's literally just, can he walk for 5 hours, 4 days in a row? And if he can, he wouldn't be here if he didn't think he could. Like, that interview was brilliant yesterday. When he was talking about, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think I was going to win, or I didn't think I was able to win, or mix it with the best in the world. And it immediately brings you back to that Curtis Strange interview, the You'll Learn, which, I don't know, I think we put it up on Instagram yesterday. It's just, in terms of the worst kind of interviews are the worst thing to hang over you for the rest of your life. Like if you Google Curtis Strange, that's what comes up, not his career. But yeah, I think this week, like it's a tricky enough course. There's no water at all in Riviera. The rough isn't too bad. It's long enough. Like where it gets you is touch around the greens. So like strokes gained approach and kind of, I guess, around the green. Just like out of, no matter who you are, if you are the best player that's ever lived, your touch isn't going to be perfect. If you're coming off a massive uncompetitive streak, so you can't really see him competing. I think he's 100-1, and like I think even that isn't enough to tempt me to get involved. He is 2-1 to make the cut, which I think I'm going to get involved in. Just because like it's nothing to do with his golf, and I think 2 days he can absolutely pull 2 days together. It's just when it comes to Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, yeah, it's I think the signs are going to show there that this guy hasn't played a competitive golf, as Con said, since the Open. But no, it's amazing to see him back. Joe, I think you've nailed it there as well. I think Bay Hill is the next logical step, where he's won 8 times. Like I'd be tempted to back him there. And then onto another green jacket.
Yeah, like it's great to see him back, and it's very unlikely that he'll do anything really significant or win. I mean, he won the 2008 US Open, having not played for a little while, but like looking at his win in the Masters in 2019, like if you plot his journey to that point, like he first came back at the end of 2017. He played in his Hero Challenge, December 2017, and then throughout the 2018 season, he competed at the PGA, one of the ones that Brooks won. He nearly won that. He was leading going to the back nine of Sunday at the Open, the one in Carnoustie that Molinari won. Then he won the Tour Championship, and then he won the Masters. So from kind of start to finish, that journey was like 15, 16 months or something. And he had put himself into position on numerous occasions before he got that done at the Masters. So I think, like, can he win again on the PGA Tour? I would say yes. Could he win another major? I would say yes. He could win multiple majors. Like Phil won the PGA last year at 51, and Tiger's been able to better him all along their career. But I think it's to both of your points there. It's like playing this week, play Bay Hill. He needs to get on a consistent run of form, a run of playing 10, 12 events a year for the next few years if he could be expected to do anything and win a major or even win on tour again. He needs to get that consistent playing time, which, yeah, you said there, I saw him hitting balls at the range and looked great, swing looked class, but he was talking about his ankle and not being able to walk. And you said there, Cooper, he hasn't walked 72 holes yet this year. So, it's class. Absolutely buzzing to see him. But in terms of expectations, hopefully he proves us all wrong and he's up there on Sunday, but I just can't really see it happening.
I saw some live bot, no doubt, tweeting that what a disgrace to have Tiger in the tournament this week. The sponsors have paid all this money and now all they're going to get is Tiger Woods airtime. And like in the back of your head,
that's what people want.
Literally what people want. The needle himself fucking showing up. No, I wouldn't. It's just another live bot. But yeah, after their performance during the week with their video, I don't think even the live bots can defend them anymore.
Yeah, pretty shambolic. Like that video, if anyone hasn't seen it, go onto the live Instagram or don't actually.
Yeah, so poor Martin Keimer got hung out to dry. They're all given pathetic excuses as to why you should follow their team. Oh Jesus, even think about it. And one notable one was Sergio saying we're the best looking team. But Kevin Na stands up and says one word, iron heads. And the little girl goes, that's 2 words. And then Kyra goes, clique, that's 1 word.
Yeah.
The entire advertisement for that fucking team. Like it's just whoever is, and I'd say these videos are costing so much money. Like it's like love seeing a good startup burn through a heap of cash when you want to see them fail, but like you'd think they'd have some sort of cop on, whereas every time they just outdo themselves in terms of going a level above the cringe factor where you thought, surely they can't get any worse. Yeah, they always manage it.
Their first event's coming up soon, in a couple of weeks, or maybe next week, is it? I think it might be next week, yeah. But just looking at Riviera, lads. So it's a course that seems to be held in very high regard. I mean, thinking about it, I can't think of that many iconic holes. Joe, you mentioned the 18th hole with that natural amphitheater at the back. There's the 10th hole, which is the drivable par 4, which is pretty cool. Caused a lot of issues. Is this where they have that bunker in the middle of the green on one of the par 3s too?
Yeah, the 6th.
What are your
have it right in the middle?
Yeah,
sure you played on Tiger Woods gone, no?
I probably have, to be fair.
It's one that's I think not all the players, but one of the quotes from the week that kind of speaks for all the players is it's one of the best course we play on tour. Like it's just it's not as, I guess, iconic as a Bay Hill or a Pebble Beach, but like in terms of a golf course, the golfers seem to absolutely fucking love it. It does, as I said there earlier, like it's not that it's not tricky, it just really bogey avoidance and approaching around the green seem to be the main things. Lending on from our mentor Eddie Condon, they're very quick Powana greens, and apparently within 10 feet is incredibly tricky. They're slick as. So like, that was one of the angles I was trying to look into this week in terms of, it's who does particularly well on these. It's been likened in terms of actual play and performance to the likes of Augusta. So it's like that kind of a course, shot shape and accuracy, and just not necessarily scrambling, but not leaving yourself 12 feet for birdies, because it's meant to be extremely difficult from relatively close around the pin compared to other courses. Again, as I said, it's been on Tiger Woods for so long. It's an amazing event, and Tiger to be playing and hosting is it's special.
And just quickly,
that 10th hole is one of the best holes.
Yeah, it's a cracking hole, drivable par 4, and I'd certainly be made a fool of around that green if I had to try to chip the right distance.
Have you not solved the itch yet? No.
I tell myself I have, and in fairness, they're a lot better than it was, but I still have the shaky Stevens knees going. So, sometimes it's not pretty to look at. But so that 10th hole would make a fool out of me. I'd definitely be laying back and trying to hit a full shot onto the green, so I didn't have like a little 50-60 yarder.
They've got that bunker up the left side that you can't even lay up. They've got this bunker up the left side you can't even lay up to. As you can't even hit a long layup. I think you need to lay up to like a full pitch wedge as opposed to, like an 80 yard shot, because it brings that long bunker into play. And like it's got to be one of the narrowest targets on tour all year, that green, from front to back. I don't know what width it is, but it's a small target anyway, and it's just surrounded by those bunkers. We've seen over the years as well players knock it from bunker to bunker on that green. I know a couple of years ago, I can't remember who it was, but I think they knocked it 3 or 4 times from bunker to bunker. So if those guys are doing it, geez, we wouldn't stand a chance.
Who are we fancying then? So actually, we'll reflect on our bets from last week. So we had two of us had Xander, didn't we? And then I had Ricky. So a couple of 3 top 10s. Who was the third one outstanding?
Matsuyama, who completely fucked himself on day one. So he finished top 30. Like I was impressed with him, but no, just handicapped himself way too much on day one. But yeah, the three boys in the frame.
Three
And,
top 10.
I'm solo bottom of the leaderboard, so hopefully this week can make amends.
Yeah, you've mugged yourself off there with Matsuyama's first round last week. It was absolutely awful. Who are we saying this week then?
Yeah, well, first of all, I was delighted that Xander stretched the rules last week. That was great to see, obviously. But yeah, this week, it's yeah. With all the, like we said it last week, with all of them going at us, like, you know, it makes it much probably tougher to call. But yeah, a couple of names. I think, like Cooper said there, there's gonna be a lot of missing greens around here because they're I think the fairways are narrow. The rough isn't the worst, but I think the fairways are still narrow, so it's gonna be hard to hold them. So I think a very good short game is demanded, and I think JT is quietly going along very strongly, and with his short game, his stats are very good. I think coming off a good finish last week, he's a decent shout. And I was tempted to go for him, but I'm going to go with the man who can't stop winning in California, Max Homa.
Honest, Max California. Fuck it.
Yeah. I think like 4 of his 6 wins are in California. He's obviously won twice in California in the last like 5-6 months. As Cooper said, those Poana greens, he puts so well on them, and it's what he kind of grew up on. He grew up like 30 miles away from this course. He says it's one of his favorites. It's also a fader's golf course. And you know, as we were treated to when he was mic'd up over in Torrey a couple of weeks ago, his stock shot's a fade, and it's what he loves hitting. So I think he'll feel so comfortable here. He'll have, I mean, he has good support anywhere he goes, I'm sure, but he'll have obviously a home crowd. And I think his record in Riviera, probably the last but most significant point. He won here 2 years ago. He came 10th last year. He came 5th the year before. So that's 5th win, 10th in his last 3 appearances. And obviously, no need to kind of say what form he's in at the moment. So I think I'd be kicking myself if I didn't go for Homa. So yeah, that's me.
I've already done him. Max Homa 20-1. He, for basically all the same reasons you said. He won here a couple of years ago. Loves California. Loves Riviera. Playing unbelievable. Obviously, it's a difficult field, but he's 12th in the world. He's like one of the most informed players in the world, so he shouldn't be afraid. So yeah, you summed it up. I'm going Max Homa as well. Cooper?
I can't go for fucking Max Homa now, can I? Yeah, no, for everything Joe said, like you said there's Elcon 12th in the world. He's arguably top 5 in the world right now. Like he is just playing such good golf. Fuck yeah. Well, I had home in my picks here. One other angle I liked was Hatton. So just for the kind of reason I said earlier, strokes gains around the green, scrambling and putting inside 10 feet. Hatton is very high up on those 3 specific statistics, and his form. He's been in the top 7 3 of the last 4 tournaments, including a good close last week at Phoenix. Oh, fuck these lads! I can't. I literally.
You can. You can all go all in on Homa if you want.
No, I'll go with Hatton at 45-1.
Okay, so we've got.
Even though I will be backing Max Homa with fucking anti-post bets for Cheltenham as well, because yeah, this is Max Homa written all over it, but I'll go for the each way value with Hatton. And yeah, Paddy Power again are doing 10 places this week, which is brilliant. So that got us got the 3U in the money last week. So yeah, 10 places, it's such great value in these really stacked golf events. So yeah, I'll be doing Hatton on the nose, but Home on the nose, Max California, but yeah, Hatton each way.
3. Before we wrap up, just want to touch on some of the Irish guys. Obviously, Lowry was all over the place last week. Very solid week for Power, top 20. And Tom McKibbon, I think, is definitely worth a mention on the DP World Tour in Singapore last week. For anyone who missed it, he was leading after the first round and faded a little bit over the weekend, shot 271s on the weekend, ended up coming tied 12th. But, I mean, he's only a kid. Is he 19, 20 years of age? Like,
20.
Looking at, I really want to see Hurley do well this year, and I really want to see the likes of John Murphy do well this year. But McKibbon just seems to have that little bit of X factor. I really do think, I said it at the start of the year, my big bold prediction for the year is that McKibbon's going to win on the DP World Tour this year. And I definitely see it happening. I could see it happening very soon.
Yeah, there was a few times he got out of position. Just like kind of tricky shots around the greens, and like his touch was absolutely beautiful. Like he doesn't look like someone who's a rookie on the DP World Tour. But yeah, like if you look at his scorecards, like there's plenty of birdies there. It's just a few kind of sloppy shots, dropping shots out of nowhere kind of thing. Like that's he'll get better at them over time. But yeah, in terms of like has the look about him of a multiple winner on tour. It's, I wouldn't want to say a certainty, but he has the swagger. He looks like he's not going to be a one-hit wonder some random week.
He also turned pro quite early compared to what a lot of other guys do, and that just shows sort of a courage and I think just a self-confidence that'll carry him. And he's obviously a lot of belief. So I think I think your prediction at the start of the year, Con, won't be too far off.
Did you back it, Con? Did you get odds on it? No?
I should have actually looked up odds on it. I'd probably get shite odds now.
That would have been, I have no idea what it could have been, but it could have been decent. Because he's literally fucking, he was just a teenager going onto the tour. Like,
yeah. It's interesting what you say, Joe, about him like turning pro straight away, because obviously that collegiate route is so popular these days. We've got a few top amateurs, the likes of Mark Power, who's playing over in Wake Forest, and there's a lot to be said for that. Like, those guys are competing with the top college players, and Leona obviously took that route as well. But not for everyone, and this guy has obviously just backed himself from day one and said, I'm going to go for it.
There's a good term fucking man playing with Louisiana now, Dylan Keating. I think they're all out this week. I'm not sure where the event is on, but the best team name, the Raging Cajuns from Louisiana.
That's good, actually. I like that.
He was in Illinois last year, but he's after transferring over to Louisiana. So yeah, I think there's 4 guys in that tournament this week. So yeah, it's but as you said, like in terms of developing as a player, it makes sense. But if you have the game and the confidence to go straight at it, could be a complete disaster. Like, as you said, Leona went to Duke, and like she could have turned pro probably at any time. Then when she did turn pro after a few years of literally putting in serious grind and doing well in the collegiate series, come straight into Solheim Cups, into top 10 in the world in no time. So like, I guess it's player dependent, but it's each to their own, depending on how much confidence they have. Sure, Harrington himself he wasn't the best golfer in his house when he was in college. Like, his brother was better than him, and he went and got the accounting degree as a safety net. And like, if he didn't have that safety net to say, if I fail here, I can still go and work in KPMG, he mightn't have had the confidence when he went out on course. He might have been shitting himself saying, how am I going to pay the mortgage? So yeah, it's each to their own, really. Just one other notable from, speaking of teenagers and amateurs, see your man Wen Yi Ding, or Ding Wen Yi, the Chinese. Oh, yeah. You see his father?
Class.
Oh, unbelievable. I think he's only 18 now, and like, what do you shoot? 266s to open up in Singapore. The more we see of him and his father on the bag, the better.
Yeah, if anyone hasn't seen it, look it up. His dad was going absolutely bananas every time he was holding the putt. It's class. Right, I'm gonna go and watch this Netflix doc. It's just released today, so can't bloody wait. So next week we'll digest and discuss what Tiger's been up to, and maybe we'll do a little bit of a discussion around the Netflix stuff when people have had the chance to watch it, but obviously no spoilers. I think we'll leave it there, lads. Thank you everyone for joining for another week of Unplayable. We will chat to you next week.